If you invest like $200 a month in the stock market, let's say in the S&P 500, which has an average return of about 10% historically, you could retire with $1.8 million. But if you save that amount of money, you would retire with about like 200K in your account. And it's just that like the concept of compound interest that we're not being taught about. And that's what we really want to teach people to do.
Literally so overdue. I cannot believe how long it's been since we saw each other last. And I'm so excited to have you guys.
So excited to be here.
Yeah, we're thrilled.
Well, we have to start from the beginning. What happened before you founded Alinea? Where were you guys at?
Wow. Where were we?
Well, we met in school.
Oh, yeah. So that's how you guys became co-founders.
Yeah.
So we knew each other. We were both studying economics. And I had interned on Wall Street. Eve had also interned in Wall Street and parts of the finance industry. And it was just a moment of luck. We became class partners for this project. And we started talking about different ideas, stopped at finances for people our demographic, and just became absolutely obsessed with all the solutions that are needed in this area.
What was that lightning bulb moment where you're like, okay, like this is our life's purpose, like we have to build this?
Your story, I mean, you should share your
story. So I was interning on Wall Street. I don't know how old I was. It was 21.
You were 17.
Oh, I wasn't 17. I was in college.
21.
Are you guys not the same age?
Yeah, we literally are. Yeah, I was 21, and we were interning on Wall Street, went off for lunch, and, one of the guy interns who was working with me was talking about how he had made thousands and thousands of dollars from investing in the stock market, so much so that he had paid off his college tuition, and it was just, like, a moment of frustration. I was like, wait, why haven't I done this? Like, why hasn't anyone taught me how to do this? I don't know how he started investing so early. It was probably under a parent's account or something like that, but it was this moment of just feeling really frustrated and angry that, like, we have to work our whole lives to get a good job, to make money, but you're not really taught the tools of what to do with that money or how to grow it and really progress in life. So that was a light bulb moment for me that I wanted to work on this and bring this to people around me.
And I know you quit Wall Street to build this company. What was the moment where you're like, okay, I gotta leave, I gotta actually quit my job, let go of the financial safety and security that a job brings, and then actually go and build this?
Yeah, it wasn't an easy process. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It was just had this intrusive thought that wouldn't go away, and it stayed with me for about almost 8 months. I would talk to Eve about it. And
we meet up on the weekends to talk. Like she was in investment banking. I was working for a growth stage startup, and we like meet up on Saturdays instead of going to brunch with our friends to talk about Alinea. So it was like nonstop.
A real sacrifice.
Yeah.
Brunch with the friend.
No, that is a real sacrifice.
Think about it when we were in the shower, like every single day. Like it was when we'd wake up, go to sleep, like it was always in our thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people should randomly build companies. I think people should build companies that they literally cannot imagine a world without their product, because only then are you really going to know like what you actually need to build. So I'm curious if what the app looks like today was actually how it started, and like how has it evolved, if at all?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a lot of people say that, like, your first idea is never your last idea. So I'd love to hear that evolution for you guys.
That's 100% true. The app has evolved so much, and completely agree with you, too. Like, we never started this company to start a company. It was actually quite the opposite. We had an idea and a product we wanted to bring into the world, which was investing for our demographic, for Gen Z, for females, if you're a first-time investor. So bringing that out into the world was really the mission that we started this company with. And the product has evolved so much. In the beginning, we always had this idea that investing should be easy, and it should be responsible, and it should be something as seamless as online shopping and as aesthetic and appealing. So that was really sort of the vision we went in with.
Yeah, one of your largest demographics on your app is women, right?
Correct.
Yeah, 92.7% of our user base is female.
That's crazy. What do you think makes your app different from others that more women are inclined to invest on it?
Well, we really speak to them. It's really in our marketing and our ethos that if you felt left out of the conversation around finance, around stocks, around investing, if you've experienced that feeling that I felt when all the guys my age were talking about how they've been investing and no one's ever talked to you about this, then we've built a place where you feel like you can say you belong and get started. It's really daunting to start anything new, and especially when it has to do with money, it's even more scary. So we wanted to build a safe place, an environment, and a community, and a product.
I love it. How did you guys secure your funding originally?
Yeah, so we quit our jobs during COVID, the pandemic, when we got into Y Combinator, and we basically had 24 hours to leave our jobs and kind of start YC that next week. That's when we got our first check. It was $125,000 for 7% of the company. And 8 weeks later, we had a demo day where we raised $2.3 million, which was our pre-seed round.
In one day?
It was over 2 weeks.
That's crazy.
In total. But yeah,
that's
the majority of
wild.
it came through one day.
Congrats. Still, that's absolutely insane. I mean, 2% of venture capital goes to women. I mean, you know this, obviously. Do you think being a woman has been your advantage or disadvantage when raising that money? And like, what is it actually like literally pitching your company in front of tons of investors on a demo day?
I think regardless of who you are, it's incredibly scary and frightening to go out and pitch your idea to people and say, this is what we want to build, like, please back me or have a vision. And I think the way to do that is to say, this is this problem, illustrate it, and kind of relate it back to these investors who may not experience the problem themselves.
Yeah. It took us, like, we got 100 no's before we got our first yes, right? So it was definitely hard. It was hard for people to trust us as two young women. But we kept pushing, and I think that's been our strength from the beginning. We're very persistent, and we'll keep getting no's until we get that yes.
What was it like going from being classmates together to then being co-founders after you graduated? And was this company basically your first job, or did you guys have a job before?
We did have a job before, so okay. I went off. I did investment banking, and this was like a side idea that we were working on. I feel like we were co-founders from the start. When we started this, it was a project in a metaphorical way. It's still a project today, even though we have legal documents and investors. And so we've had that dynamic from the beginning, and it was really great because we got to understand how we work together, and we're just like, both of us are just enablers. Like, we don't say no. If I'm like, I want to do something, Eve will be like, yes, we can do it with this. And then we just go back and forth, and that's how we are where we are today.
Yeah, but in much of your content, you said that a lot of the job that you did was like leading to a bunch of burnout, and it didn't feel like the right environment for you guys. And so you guys, that was also a factor to quitting. What were the key factors that really like led to that burnout at your job? This was like the time of the pandemic. I had like moved to the suburbs, and I was taking these long walks and listening to podcasts and really just thinking about what is it that I want to spend my time doing. And I really think even when it comes to investing your money or like taking any financial decision, money is one aspect of it. But like the other aspect that's so important is how do you want to spend your time? And I just feel like I wasn't spending my time sitting at a desk and doing work for corporations wasn't how I wanted to spend the next decade of my life. I wanted to build something, and I wanted to bring it out to people and give that a shot. What was the initial reactions of like your friends and your family when you told them you were like, hey, I'm dipping? Like, what did they say?
You're crazy.
Obviously.
What are you doing? Yeah, no one around us is an entrepreneur, so that was definitely hard.
Yeah. What did you say back? Like, how did you explain and justify yourself? Or maybe you just didn't.
I think, like, a lot of people... I think a lot of people were literally like, you're insane. And I think, like, I had a girl... Well, a good friend come up to me, like, maybe, like, a few years ago. And she was like, I thought it was really stupid that you quit your job to build the app. And, like, in full honesty, the app didn't look amazing in the early days. Nothing ever does. And she's like, I just thought you were so stupid for doing that. And then I showed her like one of our more recent versions, and she's like, but I get it. Like you quit to build up to this, not the first version. So those reactions are definitely there. But that's an honest thing. I mean, it's the saying is you're cringe until you're successful.
That's actually wild that she literally came up and said this.
It was an honest conversation. I appreciated it.
Yeah.
And I think like that's how, I'm sure we've all thought that way about.
100%.
Yeah.
No, totally. And if there's no point in actually building your first version that's perfect and amazing, because the reality is you're going to get it wrong. Yeah. So you might as well do something as fast as possible, let it be scrappy, and then see how people respond so you can quickly iterate on it as fast as possible to get to like that perfect version that people actually love.
Yeah.
And I don't think like anyone knows what that looks like not even you. It's like it's honestly like a joint project between you and your users.
Exactly.
How did you like regularly get feedback from your users and like work on the app?
We still do this. We literally will text people and be like, hey, we're the founders, you downloaded our app, like can you tell us like what you think? And people respond, and it's just been this iterative process. We schedule, we call them interviews, but really just like a call to talk about why they're here, why they downloaded the app, what they want to see. And that's where we've ended up where we have today, is just talking to people. And I think like people are so willing to talk, you know?
And really focusing on their pain points. So like, what is it that's a pain point for you in your finances and investing, and how can we solve it?
The story rings a bell. 1 year ago, I think I was one of those interviews.
You were one of them, for sure.
Wow, what did you guys think? Was my feedback useful?
Oh, so useful.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. But then how do you know if I'm just like an exception, like I'm the only one who thinks this way and it's actually not worth implementing because everyone else is going to disagree, versus like actually my feedback is valuable and useful and worth implementing?
The good thing about what we're building is that the community we're building for is usually young female or Gen Zs, and so it's very targeted, and a lot of them have the same issues, or it comes from the same pain point. So when you hear users' pain point for our product is, I don't know what to invest in and I don't know how much to invest. Those are the biggest pain points, and so we really solve around those.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Honestly, all the feedback is usually the same. I think what's really interesting about like customer feedback is everyone would be like, well, I think this, but I don't know if everyone else thinks this. And it's like, actually, we all think the same, which has been a really interesting part of this process. And everyone always says that. They're like, well, this is my feedback, but might not be everyone else's. But if you talk to 5 people, they'll all start saying the same things.
That is very real. How do investors respond when you say you're like specifically targeting this niche demographic of like young women?
I was going to say, what you shouldn't listen to for product feedback is your investors. Listen to your customers, not your investors, when building products. And that's what we did. Like, I feel like that was one of the first mistakes we did. We were listening to what investors were telling us to build, which was around social investing and social features and all of that, but that wasn't solving necessarily the user's pain point.
Yeah, I mean, when I was raising money way back when I thought I was going to go build a tech company, and I was similarly targeting the exact same demographic as you guys, one of the biggest things that investors told me was like, there's just not a big enough market. Like, no one cares about this customer. They don't have purchasing power. Why are you targeting them? And I'm curious if you've heard similar.
I think it's hard to say that half the population is a niche market. Like, I just think that's a really tough argument.
I totally agree.
I think if you look at the market today, like Taylor Swift is driving the economy right now, or she was. And that's, I like to think like we have the Taylor Swift market, if not more.
Hell yeah.
So I think the market size is definitely big enough. That's a tough argument to make.
I'm obsessed. I wish I said that. Why didn't I say that? That's so good. And at the end of the day, like, your product makes investing easy. That is relevant to anybody. And we're all looking for ways to make money and have it be an easier process for us. So I can't see why this wouldn't extend way past it in the future.
And it does. We see a lot of network effects that someone will hop on, they'll bring their boyfriend on, their boyfriend will bring their mom on. And so we're seeing a lot of these effects that it's not siloed by gender or age, but really, again, like you said, anyone who wants to start that wealth building journey.
Yeah. And you've really built this community around Alinea. How do you activate and engage that community? How do you then use that to then get more users on your app through social media? Like, I'm curious about your flywheel.
Yeah. We have found that us, Anam and Eve, directly posting to social media is one of the most effective ways to build community. And so we've done that. We have over like 4.5 million likes on TikTok, our Anam and Eve page. We're close to 100K followers on our Instagram page. And so it's really just being in communication with our audience. We regularly do customer interviews. We're constantly responding to all the messages we get. And so activating through all channels and us being at the forefront of this communication.
Do you have any advice for founders who are trying to build consumer apps and are trying to use social media to like leverage that?
Like, just get your hands dirty. Like, get in there. Like, go talk. Go respond to people. Go message people.
Share your story. Why did you start your company? Like, why are you building what you're building?
Yeah, people follow people, not brands. That's so real about our generation. Do you think that it's possible to have a consumer company that's not founder-led nowadays?
It's possible, but it's
much harder.
It's hard.
Yeah.
I almost want to say it's impossible simply because building a company is extremely hard. Then the next harder thing than that is building a consumer company. And then now you're going to tackle the even third hardest thing, which is building a consumer company without a person or a face behind it, like actually genuinely seems impossible. And it makes so much sense how you've created a community around your story as like two relatable girls who had a job. We've all had jobs. We've all hated our jobs at one point, and then use that like friendship and like your time together and work to really build something of like purpose. Like that's a really amazing story to follow. And so it makes a lot of sense. So tell me more about your job. I want to hear about like what parts of it you felt like aligned with you versus what parts didn't, and like how has that really influenced the features of the app and like the mission and vision of like where it's going?
I kind of felt like I had like I was living someone else's life. Like I was waking up and like living in a simulation. I was going to work. I didn't relate to anyone around me. What I saw, which I found really interesting and I've carried with me to this day, is that a group of guys of all ages would get together around lunchtime, around dinner time, and they'd talk about how the stock market was doing for like personal interest reasons. And I'd never seen anything like this in my life. And they were talking about how much they bought or how much they sold. And that's not readily available to people like me or my friends. And so that was sort of the mission, is that we're not talking about some of the things that can make us really wealthy. And to have that community and conversation is critical.
We use that actually in our marketing today. We always say like women are sold everything except what makes them money. And we're always marketed like the latest bag, the latest like makeup, the latest brand, like whatever it is that makes us look better, but we're never like taught or we're never marketed how to make more money with what we have.
I always say like don't spend money on anything that's not going to pay you back. Like everything from like even if you want to buy that bag, like buy the bag on a credit card, it's going to pay you back in some ways. Yeah. I can't even tell you how many people are literally spending their money on debit cards. Like this feels like so obvious, but it's like you're right. It's not obvious because women are just not talking about it, and sometimes it just needs a conversation.
And we're not taught about it in school, and we're usually not taught about it at our like where we're brought up or with our families. And then if you're not learning about it with your friends, then how do you find out?
My big concern with this is there's so many women like us who are leaving our jobs because we're clearly in environments that are not where we thrive. We're like one on a table full of men. I have experienced that too. But then us leaving, doesn't that basically further perpetuate the problem where now those spaces that are already very male dominated are just actually becoming more male dominated? Like, how do you think about that? Like, how do we continue to stay in those conversations in those rooms if we leave?
I think there's still a good subset of people there. Like a lot of my friends have still stayed in finance and they're doing really well. But I think what's important is being able to, again, creating spaces where you can have those conversations about what that means. So with my friends, a lot of the time when I'm with them, they're talking about how to negotiate a promotion or like how to talk to your boss about getting qualitative feedback instead of like quantitative, objective things to work on. So again, it's all about just creating spaces and having those conversations. It doesn't matter. Not everyone has like the privilege or the ability to leave their job, but if you are there, you need the community and the support. And I think at the end of the day, no matter where you are, you want to feel like you belong. And that's really important.
Where do you see Alinea in like 5 years, 10 years?
I want millions of people to be on the app and growing their wealth and really feeling free and not feeling stuck.
And creating that new habit of investing a certain amount every single month into the stock market. Like this is something we teach, young people all the time. It's like if you invest like $200 a month, in the stock market, let's say in the S&P 500, which has an average return of about 10% historically, you could retire with $1.8 million. But if you save that amount of money, you would retire with about like $200K in your account. And it's just that like the concept of compound interest that we're not being taught about, and that's what we really want to teach people to do. It's about small like habits to create.
How is your app different from other investing platforms?
So we're really working on like the guidance and the education side of it. It's like going to the gym versus having a personal trainer. Going to the gym alone, like I know those days I kind of get on the treadmill, try to do my best, but having like a trainer or a teacher guide with you like changes everything, right? You feel more motivated, you have guidance, you're more likely to stick to the habit. It's not even necessarily about the action, but it's about the motivation, the confidence, and the knowledge that comes with it. And so we like to think of we're your money best friend. We're here to guide you, here to build wealth. And the biggest mistake we don't want you to be making is not investing your money when you have time on your side. So, and I think that may be the biggest mistake our generation could fall into.
Totally. And there is so much random advice online about money that's like completely bogus.
Yeah.
So having something to like that's trusted and that I can go to as like, okay, this is a place where I know my like stuff I'm like reading is verified, stuff I'm learning is verified. I think it's so important in the money world, especially for women, where we're constantly being misled, like you said, like we're constantly being told or put in money in places where we're not actually growing our wealth, which makes so much sense because that just perpetuates the patriarchy that we live in. If only we knew how to be completely independent, that actually might dismantle this gender gap that we experience. So it's really interesting how you guys are tackling this. Are there any role models in the business and finance world that you like particularly look up to or are inspired by?
So many.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my first role models when we started building this was Alexa Von Tobel. She created one of the first fintechs, LearnVest, built it up, sold it. Like she was one of the first women that was in the fintech industry, and so that was really helpful. Like listening to her podcast, hearing her story. She's one of the first ones that comes to mind.
Have you met her?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's literally amazing. What's it like meeting your like actual role model in real life?
It's good. It's good to see that she's accessible, that she's there. It's good to hear her advice. Yeah.
Mine's Michael Seibel. He I really watched his YouTube videos over the pandemic. Just became
he's from YC, right?
Yeah, he's from YC, and like became totally obsessed. I was not a tech girly at all, and like it was insane. Like it was like when I did the YC interview, I was freaking out to Eva. I was like, what if he's the one interviewing us? And I open up the Zoom and he shows up. And it was so weird because I was watching his YouTube videos for hours and then this person's talking
You're
to
like,
me.
oops, I'm a fangirl.
Via Zoom,
Anam's face when that Zoom opened up was like,
I was just, I was trying to play it so cool and I was really losing it.
It's like seeing Taylor Swift.
Yeah, and it got weirder because like when we got in, he called my cell phone. And it just went from like me watching YouTube videos of this person to now they're calling my cell phone. And we had a conversation and he's like, hope you've quit your job. Like, welcome to YC. I was like, this is an insane arc. We just went from YouTube video to now you're calling my cell phone. And to this, and we met him in person like 6 months ago. So we sat down with him. He's very, very tall. I'm very, very short.
Wait, he's very tall and very
she's
short.
Still fangirls.
I'm very short. And I was like,
you're very short.
I'm very short. Yeah.
He's very tall and
no, he's very tall. I'm very short. And in a YouTube Zoom box, people are they're squares. And so it's great. Like, I love his advice. If you're looking to get into tech or care about building products, like, go watch his YouTube videos. They've literally changed my life.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you're talking about. They're very well done. But I don't know if I've met a fangirl like you before, but that's amazing.
I'm a big fangirl.
How can more young women meet their role models in real life? I think it's phenomenal that both of you have had interactions with people you look up with. Like, I don't think that's a very ordinary thing.
Well, we're pretty niche girlies. Like, our role model's not Taylor Swift, but I have heard of people meeting Taylor Swift as well. Like, I think, like, go to those spaces. Like, go to those spaces. Like, don't be scared. Go to those event spaces. Like, if there's an event happening. Also, like, reach out to people. Like, don't be afraid. Like, I think did we connect, like, random? It was, like, some...
I have no idea.
I don't know, but it was, like, something random. Like, So like, don't be afraid to like randomly message people and talk to them. Like that's how we build. Like that's what the whole point of.
I remember you did message me.
I message probably. I
TikTok,
message everyone.
She messages everyone.
I literally message everyone, and I think like that's important.
What's your hit rate?
I don't know, but I literally message everyone randomly, and
That's how we became.
That was actually the right answer. You're not supposed to know. It means you're not messaging enough people.
Yeah,
you're not getting enough no's if you know.
I literally don't know. I literally message I think this is really embarrassing, but like I think Eve told me to go reach out to. We were looking for an engineer, and I think I'd messaged her, and all she had responded was like, "Sorry, no." And so that's how I know I message
everyone.
I literally messaged.
What's the worst message response you've ever had? Was it that?
I think like sorry, no. Like it was just like sorry. I was like, hey, like, do you want to chat? She was like, sorry, no. Like,
what's the?
I was like, oh, sorry, no, and like dot. It was like it was more passive than that. Yeah. That's okay.
That's not very passive.
I think you should message people like for the thrill of it all.
I think what's really good about us also is that we're not afraid of the no's, and I think that's
What's the craziest thing I've done? Yeah,
that was not my question, but let's talk about that.
What's the craziest message? Yeah, I've literally
Wait, I want to know what's the craziest thing you've ever
I emailed the CEO of Stripe. We were having a problem, and he literally, and then I spoke to someone from the team, and they're like, yeah, like Patrick knows about this. I was like,
Michael Seibel told you.
No, but someone else also told me, and they're like, oh, Patrick. I'm like, Patrick, like the founder of Stripe.
Like, the billionaire? Yeah.
That Patrick, he's like, yeah, so. Patrick, if you're watching.
I think you've done something crazier, but yeah.
Probably.
That's a pretty good
one. Okay, well, you tell me what's you done that's crazier.
I think that's probably the craziest.
It's top crazy stories, but there's been some good ones too.
Okay, what about you? Any crazy stories?
Eve's team. That's why we need.
That's why you're perfect co-founder pair. You keep her in check. She does the crazy and shoots the shot.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, well, I want to know more about your experience with entrepreneurship. What is a myth you think you've been told that you found completely debunked as you've been along this journey?
I heard a quote yesterday, and it really resonated with me. It's everything is hard. And it's really hard. Like, everything is hard. I think working a job is really hard. I think entrepreneurship is also really hard. And there's just no shortcut. You can still love something, and it can still be really hard. Like, the whole choose your heart is a very real thing. And there's no shortcuts in life. I think that's the biggest learning. Everything takes time and patience, and you have to really struggle on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember us launching the first version of our app and thinking that we would have millions of downloads overnight, and just watching the graph be like this. And so the biggest myth is just like thinking that you can launch a product and have instantly get millions of users. Like, no, it takes times. We have had to get to 7 different versions of our app and different launches of our app before getting to 500,000 downloads. So like Anam said, it's hard and it takes time.
Totally. I mean, if you want extraordinary things, you have to do extraordinary things to get it. Like, nothing's for free, like you said. That totally adds up with everything that I've ever had that's been interesting in my life. How did you get over that initial hurdle when you downloaded the product that no one downloaded? What'd you do?
Kept building.
Kept
talking to customers and kept building.
I'd cry, break out into hives.
You gotta cry.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
I feel like crying is part of the process. It's therapeutic.
Eat a lot of sugar.
Would survive off sugar and coffee. It's not good. Don't do it. What else?
I mean, literally, you were late 20 minutes because of your coffee.
Don't do it.
I know. I'm being.
At least you both are equally obsessed.
Yeah, so which is good.
You can both.
It would be hard to work with someone who doesn't drink that much coffee.
We couldn't work together.
I think all of that being said, is optimism is a competitive advantage. Like, we started our company prefrontal lobe development, and I think that optimism is a competitive advantage. Like, having the hope and the optimism that you believe in something, you think it's gonna work out. I think not overthinking. I think the biggest trap, sometimes I even fall into just overthinking things. Like, what if this happens and this? Don't. Just action produces information.
100%. I mean, all the overthinking of what if this happens, what is it? Well, yeah, it's actually all gonna happen is the truth, but us knowing it's gonna happen is actually what will stop us, when the truth is we just have to fail and try it. I similarly, when I quit my job, was incredibly naive. I had no idea how hard the journey was, and I remember when I quit, I was very clear on what I was gonna build, and I was like, this is obviously gonna be my end all be all. It makes complete sense. It's totally gonna do well. And of course, very quickly there were a million problems with it way outside the obvious. And to get to now, the amount of turmoil and crazy that I had to go through, 100%, if I had known this quitting, like I probably just wouldn't have quit, but I have zero regrets. Like this is definitely like the best place I've been in my life, and like I had to quit my job to get here. And I really do agree with you, like optimism, naivety is like actually the secret power that we as young people have. And I do think like that's why we are the ones who like need to start companies, because we actually know and can see like where the world is going, and we're actually like crazy enough to do it, which is like really important. I love that you said when our prefrontal lobes were not developed. That's like very facts and accurate.
Yeah. I loved your series on Delulu, being a Delulu CEO. I think like that's been
Delulu is the Salulu.
It really is. Like knowing the truth is a great way to screw yourself over. Yeah. I mean, quite literally, like every successful entrepreneur that I've met, when you go down their story, their minimum time investment is like 5 years at the soonest. But most people average 10 years before they see any returns. To do something 10 years blindly and like not see results is actually the definition of psychotic and delusional. Like this is like on paper just sounds like a terrible idea. And so I actually think if you're like too practical, too logical, like it's just have the job, just take the job. Like the job makes sense, and that is like honestly your best chance at making money. Like I just don't think starting a company is like actually the right answer for everyone. What do you think is the number one thing an entrepreneur needs to be successful besides Delulu that we already have decided?
I think obviously yes, being delusional to that extent. The second is being persistent, and like I think I was talking to you about this yesterday, detaching from the outcome. I think you said this. Yeah, but like not being attached to the outcome, like focus on the process. Like didn't work, try again. And the third I'll add is like the most I've learned is just talking to founders at my age and stage. The world evolves so rapidly. Like be in touch with your peers. I think someone told me this, that like you want to talk to the person who's 18 months ahead of you, not more than that, not less than that. 18 months is the sweet spot.
I love that. How is Alinea going to keep up with the next generation, especially as the investing trends are changing all the time? How do you plan to like evolve and adapt your app to make sure that it's always most relevant, most trendy?
We're going to continue making it more and more personalized. So let's say you get on, named Sarah, you are 22 years old, you just inherited money from your grandma. We're going to tell you exactly how to manage that money, what to do if you want to retire at 50, or if you want to buy a house at 30. Everyone has different financial needs, and we're building towards you and what you need.
That is an epic answer. I have nothing to add to that. I love that. As a woman, like, what do you think is your pro in this industry as a tech entrepreneur, and what do you think is your con or your downfall?
I think you just need to like stay focused. Like there's so much noise out there. Like anything is only an advantage or disadvantage if you make it one. And of course the stats are really bad and everything, but I think you kind of need to go back to like that delusional mindset. It is harder, I think, when people look at like female ideas or as they like, there's inherent biases. And I think if you look at it, it feels more childish or not as big. People look at sports betting and they get really, really excited. And then people will look at our app and they'll be like, oh, okay, this is an app for women, or it's not. But actually, like the market size for both of those things is comparable. And in fact, like investing is a longer sustainable activity. So yeah, you need to be aware of the inherent biases, but not let it get to you and still be focused.
Yeah. I mean, there are literally billions of women in the world.
Yeah.
To not think that could be $1 billion company makes no sense.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I would argue the sports betting market is probably smaller.
Yeah.
Because that's not all men per se. I love that you said stay focused, because as women, if we're too focused on the fact that we're actually the only ones in the room, or that like we're getting specifically different treatment, blah, 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 who cares? Like there's not really anything we can do about it except prove them wrong. So the best way to actually change this is like be another woman in the room, help I think it's kind of like one of the biggest reasons why I've wanted Genshi to move towards actually having a 50% community of men and women, because the truth of the matter is, like, continuing to isolate women is not actually how we're going to get equality. Rather, we need to, like, be allies with each other. And if the way the patriarchy works is, like, if men hold wealth and power, then by isolating ourselves from them, we're actually isolating ourselves from that wealth and power. So the most important thing is to ignore the fact that we're owning the room and, like, actually belong there, so that it makes it actually easier for other women to come and, like, eventually reach this. So I love that answer. It was really, really epic.
And the last thing I'll say is I feel like we hear a lot of bad things. Like, oh, if your female founders don't get enough money and you know, the stats aren't in our favor. But, like, a lot of good has happened. Even since we started this company, there's so many more funds that want to support female founders. There's more networks. There's more communities. So you're actually at, like, the best time of history to be a female founder. Like, this is being pushed more and more. And so there is optimism, and you should take advantage of that. There's so many women who've come before and done it, and there's bigger communities and there's a bigger support system.
Yeah, like the first time we raised money, our pre-seed, it was like 99% men that were on the cap table. And this time around, like the most recent round we did in December, was like over 90% of the investors were female. So the tables turned, which was pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
Do you think that female investors are less risk averse and they almost needed to see you have a cap table of men, or, like, see you have traction before they were willing to, like, join in?
I think they were just more like solo GPs that were women and
with the decision making power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which is so very true, that we'll see all these women as investors, and then you'll realize actually they have no decision making power because they're not the partner, or they're not, you know, the ones directly talking to the LPs. And then they're like, they say, sorry, we can't invest. And I feel like there's been so many moments of that where I felt really angry, and I'm like, and they're like, I don't even realize that actually they, like, had no say in it in reality, which is really interesting. Well, if you go back in time and tell your younger self some advice, what would you tell her?
Just do it. That's it. Just do it. Don't overthink.
Yeah, get started.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, take big swings.
I love it. Well, thank you for coming.